I graph something that's in slope-intercept form? Well, when you have something that's in slope-intercept form, this y equals mx plus b, you end up with two pieces of information. So we've got our lines in y equals mx plus b form. So you get two pieces of information. You get number one, the m, which is your slope, which is whatever's in front of the x, which is in this case a positive 2. And you get a b, which is your y-intercept, which is whatever's off by itself, which in this first example is the number 3. The question is, which one do you start with when you're graphing? Well, remember that the slope is a map on how to get from one point to the next. So that means you can't use the slope first. You need a point first. Well, that must mean that you're going to start out with the b. I always think of going in alphabetical order. B is going to be first, which is our y-intercept, meaning where do I intersect the y-axis? I'm intersecting the y-axis up at 3 here. Up at 3. Then I can use my slope on how to come up with a second point. Remember, my slope is 2. Remember, if we're using our slope on how to get from one point to the other, is we use it as rise over run problem. I don't see anything on the bottom of my fraction. So the question is, what's on the bottom of my fraction? Well, it's a hidden 1. So that means my rise here, let's see, my rise here, which is 2, because it's positive, means I'm going to go up 2. And my run, which is positive 1, means I'm going to go run to the right 1. So what does that mean? If I'm going to start where my y-intercept was at 3, and then from there, I'm going to use this as a map. I'm going to go up 2 and right 1. And that'll be where my second point is. Once you have your second point, that's all you need, and you can draw your line through your point. Don't forget your arrows on the end, and you are all done. Continuing along, they still want us to do that in problem B. The problem is it's not in the form y equals mx plus b. So how do I get it to be in the form y equals mx plus b? Well, that means in order for it to look like that, first of all, y needs to be by itself. So how do I solve this equation that I've got for y? How do I solve this 3x plus 5y equals 20? For just a y? Well, first of all, let's get the y by itself. So we'll subtract, we'll subtract a 3x from both sides. So let's see how that helps us. Well, first of all, that's just going to leave us with the 5y on the left and a negative 3x and a positive 20 on the right. Continuing along, to get the y by itself at the last step, we'll divide both sides, everything on both sides by 5. That will get rid of our 5 and leave the y by itself. Be careful. That gets us, everything's divided by 5 on the right. So a negative 3/5 in front of our x, in front of the x, and then plus, what else do we have there? We have a 20. That's also getting divided by the 5, which is going to give us a positive 4. Now, just like the last one, we have two parts of information here. We have the negative 3/5 in front of the x, which is our slope. Just like always, the slope is always in front of the x, once the y is by itself. And then we have a y-intercept that's off by itself here, which is the 4. So the b is 4. So which one do we start with, though? We always start with where we're going to intersect the y-axis, which is here, going to be at 1, 2, 3, 4 on the y-axis. I'm going to go ahead and label that as the number 4. And then I can use my slope, which is -3/5. Remember, to come up with my second point, I need to use that as rise over run to get from my first point to a second point. So let's see how this is going to work. Remember, if you have a negative slope, you either need to use the negative on the top or on the bottom, but not both. So I'm going to do what I think is easiest, which is to use the negative as part of the rise. I think that'll be easiest. So what that means is that my rise is negative, which means I'll go, because it's negative, down 3. So I'll do that. I'll go down 3 from my y-intercept at 4. So it'll be 1, 2, 3 down. And then my run, let's see, according to this one, my run is at +5 because I've already used the negative. Well, if the run is positive, that means we're going to go to the right 5. So we'll go to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's where our second point will be. So we went down 3 and over 5. Then once I have my 2 points, I can draw my line through the 2 points. Don't forget your arrows, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but you are done. So, as a quick summary, we have that we first learn how to graph a line with 2 points. Specifically, we did the x and y intercepts by plugging in 0 for x and 0 for y. Here we're still doing 2 points, but we're doing the y-intercept and the slope to get the second point. But it's still technically 2 points. And it's just as a quick reminder, if you're going to use the slope, you're using it as rise over run.